what we think of the COIORVIS Phantom HD after living with it.
1 month on with... Is it the mobile pad killer?
The answer is no.
No, you've already done a comparison.
We've already done a comparison, yes.
But what I wanted to explore is living with the COIORVIS, because a lot of people were excited about our coverage of this, wanting to know about it. What's it like now? You've been playing with it. Well, it's a month since your review, which means it's probably 6 weeks since you've had them.
Yeah, I've had them for quite a while before then.
Yes.
So yeah, I mean, it's been about a month since the review, give or take. And I do really like them, even though I've said in the comparison, overall, I prefer the mobile pads.
Yeah.
I do think that these have their place for some people.
In their own right. Let's ignore the mobile pads for now.
Absolutely.
In their own right, because some people want this style or this aesthetic. Yes. I guess if you haven't seen Andy's reviews, check them out. They're on this channel. But for those that don't know about the COIORVIS, it probably makes sense to go over a little bit about what they are and some of the specs and stuff.
Yeah, so these are what I tout as like pro Joy-Cons. And there is a reason, because obviously they are a Joy-Con alternative. But in my opinion, they are pro because they have extra features that the actual Joy-Cons do not have. And these improve upon the original Joy-Cons. So just to do like a spec rundown, yes, they are wireless. So they can still be used independently. If you want to play like Mario Kart on the go or whatever, you can do that. They've still got the little buttons on the top as well, so that's a cool thing. They do have an internal battery, obviously, because they are wireless, so they've got 500 milliamp hour batteries inside them. One thing which is amazing that these have is Hall effect sensing joysticks, so that means they are quicker to input, lower dead zone, and also because they are using magnets instead of friction and contact, essentially, you're not going to get drift, which is a massive killer on the actual official Joy-Cons. You're pretty much guaranteed at some point to get drift. You won't with these, which is epic. The other good thing is they also have gyro, which is a bonus. They do have, which is one of my favorite things, mechanical face buttons and bumpers and triggers. So mechanical switches, in my opinion, are the way to go, because membrane buttons have a typical lifespan of about 1 million click rate. These specific mechanical switches, which are the same that you find in a mouse, the little micro switches, have a lifespan of 5 million clicks. So you're getting a lot more in those. But not just that, they also have extra buttons on the top instead of back paddles like you see with some. These actually have it on the top, and that you can swap buttons to if you want to, or you can do a macro record, so you can record a series of inputs to that button. They also have turbo as well, where you can basically get the controller to press a button for you as well. And the other good thing with these, which not many Joy-Con alternatives have, is they actually have ALPS Linear HD motors. So they have HD Rumble, which again, the official Joy-Cons. Yeah, this is it, rumbling for you. Yes.
Did you like that?
Yeah, it's great. Yeah, it's really good. I'm enjoying your
acting.
Yes, that's it. You may have seen AJ's hands before in other commercials.
The low-key famous hands. It's just kind of disturbing.
But yeah, so that's pretty much it. But not only that, is obviously you've got a larger design. So this is one of the biggest things, is they're much larger than the original Joy-Cons, which they give you better ergonomics, essentially. I mean, these specifically are quite low profile. They're what I've deemed as one of the most compact pro Joy-Con alternatives. So they're not as ergonomic as some others that we've seen, but they are more ergonomic than the Joy-Cons. And the inherent problem here with Joy-Cons is the asymmetrical joystick layout. So the fact that this joystick is down here, but this one's up here, means that your thumb naturally wants to rest towards the face buttons, as opposed to like being down here. So you have to like get a bit of a claw grip to go down. And specifically on the Joy-Cons, it's horrible to break your thumb down to here. That's why we look for different alternatives most of the time, right? But this gives you that bit of extra grip, lets you sort of get down here a bit easier, not as easy as some. But yeah, that's kind of a quick rundown. I may have missed some specs, but there we go.
So fine. I think it kind of makes sense to stick them on.
Yeah.
And let's look at the good and the bad.
Yes.
The ugly.
Yeah,
and
definitely.
the in-between. I have to say, I think, and we're saying just before we start filming this, one of the things that people are most attracted to about the COIORVIS, if I can get it on without actually holding the rails, It's kind of difficult, isn't it?
I've not tried it like this, going from the side. Oh, there we go.
Those rails are stiff, aren't they?
They are. That is another feature.
Yeah,
so,
like the mobile pads.
Yeah, they're
not
like
quite stiff as those.
Extremely stiff, and that is so that once they're on, they effectively don't wiggle or move. So there's no movement, because on some alternatives you find that they slide on and off.
That horrible little bit of flex.
Yeah. So they're loose. And the whole thing flexes in your hands.
Yeah.
I mean, the Hori Split Pad Pros, for example, actually have a foot that come out and brace the screen to kind of prevent that. But these go for like, let's just get it real snug. Now we're not going to move. And it works. And that's the same tactic that Mobipad do with theirs as well.
Yeah, I was going to say, one of the things that I think people are most attracted to about the COIORVIS, and that's what I was saying just before we started filming, it's the fact that they just look like oversized Joy-Cons.
And they are, essentially.
I mean, it's nice that you've got the Panda Bear Joy-Cons anyway.
Yes.
But they fit the look of the Switch in the most kind of natural way that I've seen for any Joy-Con alternative.
Because the accents are exactly the same.
Yeah.
So all the buttons are accented just like the white Joy-Cons at least. And I think, like you said, it really does just look like a big Switch.
And aesthetically, it does look cool.
It looks great.
Looks beautiful.
I love it. And it's the most compact set of Joy-Con alternatives with such good features that I've ever seen.
Yeah.
You know?
So like aesthetics is nice. Form factor, okay. That's the sacrifice, unfortunately.
Yeah.
They do feel thin.
Yeah, they are.
The horns, almost non-existent. They're obviously a lot thicker than the Joy-Cons.
Oh, yeah.
You're getting added ergonomics compared to Joy-Cons, but compared to the others that we've had, it's a problem. The fact that they're straight up and down.
Yeah.
That was my first kind of hesitant. People like it because it looks like the Joy-Cons.
Yeah.
But it doesn't solve the Joy-Con problem. It's the unfortunate thing.
The asymmetric joystick layout. Yeah.
Because we don't have any kick down or any like extensions, so my wrist isn't pulled out.
Yeah.
That asymmetrical layout is just a bit difficult to get to.
Yeah, you have to kind of have a loose claw grip to get to it, really. But I will say, some people want that. Like, some people have smaller hands, you know, for children specifically, or females, or just blokes with smaller hands, you know. Some people say on some of the other Joy-Cons that I've reviewed, like, they're too big for me. I've had to return them or whatever. And I think for people that struggle with smaller hands, it's not all, most people are like, my hands are too big, but there is still a side of it where people have got the opposite.
Yeah, that's true.
And these will be better than most.
I would say we've both got fairly kind of like medium to larger sized hands. They're not huge, but I think our hands are kind of similar size. And they're on the small. This is on the small side for me.
Yeah, me too. Yeah,
my thumb's overlapping too much.
Yep.
Feeling wise, let's start with that because that's where we're at.
Yeah.
I think the thing that I'm kind of left with, and you can kind of elaborate on this for having used them for so long, is the feeling of the switches. Those mechanical switches are lovely. Let's listen to them. They are.
Yes.
Okay, so the feeling of the buttons, the mechanical switches, and the joysticks, to be fair, is really nice and premium on the most part.
Yes.
It doesn't match how the actual Joy-Cons feel in hand. They feel a little bit cheap.
Yeah. Totally. Yeah.
I think there could be improvements made to how maybe it's just the weight of them or the feeling of the plastic. Yeah. There's like a mismatch of quality there.
Yeah, I totally agree. I think it's the actual housing of the plastic they've gone for, and it might be like a tactical move on their part, is it feels like a cheaper plastic, you know. I just wanted to watch you struggle there, but
because I don't want to overly look at it.
So I
Have
feel
you ever
like
tried to put the kickstand out without looking?
No, but I know where it's got to go. Do you know what I mean? Like, but
and also with the kickstand, you can make a vital mistake.
Yes, you can.
Start pulling on the grill.
Oh yeah, exactly. Which is what happened to me. On the very first unboxing where I popped it out. But so I feel like they've actively gone for what I feel like feels a bit cheap. But I feel like might be tactical in the fact that it feels hard wearing. So, do you know what I mean? It feels really hard wearing. I feel like this really nice ice white isn't going to discolor as quickly as look at these.
Yes.
Look, these were white and they are not anymore. They're like almost green now. They're like
grey.
Yeah, they're like gone an off color. Now that could be from UV, could be from sunlight.
It's definitely sunlight.
It could be just from sweaty Dorito fingers.
Yes.
Who knows? But these are no longer white.
Yeah.
These are, and I can't, say, but
it's the type of plastic.
I feel like it's the type of plastic, and I feel like this might hold up better to wear and tear, and also be wipeable easier.
I will say that considering you've had them in hand for coming on to 6 weeks, they still look absolutely brand new.
They do,
and kind of testament to that. So maybe, like you say, that's the compromise they've gone for.
Yep.
It does feel slightly cheaper in hand as a consequence. I think the other thing that makes it feel a little bit cheaper is how thin they are.
Yes.
But again, that's a feature that a lot of people are probably looking for.
Yeah. I think it suits some people. Yeah.
Because the Switch inherently, when you feel like how thin the Joy-Cons are, is a thin, really light thin device.
Yeah, they're really, really thin and small.
Yeah. Talking of aging, the biggest criticism I've seen leveled at the MobilePad, specifically the M6S and M6 HD, is the yellowing of the joysticks.
Absolutely. So that's one thing that I always pull up is that the joystick caps themselves are like they've gone yellow, whereas the rest of the Joy-Con have not.
And that's a really cheapening look really quickly. And it's happening quickly with them as well.
Yes, it looks horrible.
They've gone for the black accents on this.
Yeah, exactly. Which again mirror this.
Mirror that perfectly. They match the look of the Switch. And obviously, you're not going to get that aging.
You're not going to get that problem there, no. And what I do like looking at the joysticks, yes, they're Hall effect, as we mentioned on the spec rundown, but they've still gone for a anti-friction ring. And I love the anti-friction rings. The only downside is you cannot remove these joystick caps.
Oh, you can't.
And there's no metal friction ring under the stick, around the stick.
Yeah.
But saying that, they have gone for the friction ring, so they are actually nice and smooth,
Really smooth.
Yeah, I just think it would have been a tad smoother if they'd put that bit of metal around there.
Yeah. So my negatives with this, and I think yours will be the same from using it for so long, are like nitpicking at it.
Yeah, absolutely, yeah.
On the surface, if you're looking for a awesome looking Pro controller that matches, Pro Joy-Con, that matches the look and feel of the Switch.
Yes.
It's really hard to go wrong with this.
They're really good. And that's why, like, in my reviews and stuff, a lot of the time I do say, look, I am nitpicking here because I have to.
Yeah.
I have to find some sort of negative that maybe I don't like or other people might not like, just to be honest, with if you're really critically looking and especially comparing against so many different things, I have to find the points, right? But if you're coming in, you've just got these and you've only been using these for years, and maybe you've just started getting drift and you're like, you know what, I want to get a new set.
Yeah.
If you bought these, you'd be blown away. You'd be like, these are really good. It's just, I'm like anal with stuff because I've seen other people do different things.
And talking of being like slightly anal, it's worth talking about the bumpers and the triggers.
Yeah. There's a lot of travel. And honestly, again, I'm really critical with this in use, but someone made a really good point, and I'm sorry I don't remember who commented this, but they said, you know what, I actually don't mind a bit of travel because when they actuate immediately and instantaneously, sometimes you get misinputs because you're resting your hand,
really good point.
and then it's like, oh, I've just pressed the button, whereas when there's that bit of give, you can rest your hand and the weight of your fingers just loosely laying there means you're not going to accidentally like press the button.
Yeah.
And that is a good point. And using these, like actually in use when I've been playing games, like I've not noticed the travel. I really haven't. Like they just work because again, I say this in the videos, like the review style, you press with intention when you're playing.
Yeah.
Like you're like, oh, I've got to press that. And most of the time when you're in a rush or whatever, you press with intention.
Yeah, force.
You put force behind it. You don't just really loosely go, No. Do you know what I mean? Like you're like, oh, I need to press that to get there.
I think the only time you would maybe want like hair trigger styled ones is if you're playing some kind of like rhythm game or something, like those super fast ridiculous ones,
but because of the mechanical switches,
when you've actuated and not,
and they're super fast to actuate as opposed to membrane where they're mushy and sometimes you don't know if you've clicked. With these you definitely click, but there is a downside to those mechanical switches, which is for people with audio sensory issues, or if they've got a partner and they don't want to be
that's where
hearing,
I was going to go with it. They're loud. They're not the loudest I've heard.
No, they're not.
But they are loud. If you don't like that clicky mouse click sound,
some people don't.
Then these definitely aren't for you. Personally, I love that.
I do too.
I love the tactile feeling of it.
Because to me, it's like I know that I've pressed that button.
Yeah.
You know, like that is pressed. They're much faster to actuate. They return immediately, so you can do. Some games where you've got to mash the button a lot.
Yeah.
You can do it much better with mechanical switches than you can. Yeah, because you can feel that kind of actual mechanical, input. But yeah, the other thing to nitpick, just changing slightly, is the D-pad.
Perfect. That's where I was going to go next.
Yeah. And that's probably my. Now, people have been saying you always, pick on D-pads, and it's because D-pads are difficult to get right, but also it's really subjective. Some people love a certain style of D-pad, whilst others hate them. For me,
and I feel unfortunately, COIORVIS have managed to pick something that no one will like.
Yeah.
It's flat.
It's flat, yeah, entirely flat, and it protrudes loads.
Yeah, it's flat. There's a lot of travel in it.
Yeah, it's a bit mushy in my opinion.
It's a bit mushy. It's
a bit
not
stiff.
Awful.
No. But that's what I said in my look, and it's not changed after using it for so many weeks now. I have the same opinion as I did when I first used it. Is I just don't really like it.
Yeah. I'm curious as to what the percentage of players that actually play with the D-pad is now. It came up in our Discord and the members.
Yeah.
That maybe it's a generational thing, but if it comes to a game like this, where it's a platform game, I'm gravitating towards the D-pad every time.
Absolutely. Specifically for Mario Wonder here, is you want to use the D-pad because there's less travel. When you have to move a stick, a joystick, when you need to be super precise, it's almost impossible to get like a really specific input.
Yeah.
Whereas with the D-pad, it's
absolutely
instantaneous, isn't it?
But yeah, I think the D-pad is the thing that probably lets this down the most. Also, I'm torn with the M3 button, the programmable buttons.
Yeah, the ones at the top.
They've put them on the shoulders.
Yes.
And then these tiny little square buttons here.
These like tiny little ones in between the bumper
and
and
trigger. In place
trigger.
of them being on the back, which we see with a lot of alternatives, is the back panel.
Most of them have them on the back, yeah.
And even onto like the Steam Deck, they've embraced that idea of having buttons on the back. Personally, I don't really ever use the buttons on the back. I don't like them. I often find they're in the way of my grip.
Yeah, that's why I think COIORVIS has gone for the top.
It's a totally different approach, and fair play to them. Unfortunately, I just think it's a little wide of the mark.
Yeah.
It just doesn't quite... I don't know if the placement's wrong or if the fact that it's so high and got so much travel is wrong.
Yes.
It's a great idea. I'm just not sure about it.
Yeah,
thing.
Yeah. See, for me, I find them okay. Like I always use programmable back paddles, specifically on the Steam Deck. Every time I boot a new game, I remap stuff to them.
Yeah.
I absolutely hate L3 and R3. The stick clicks.
Yeah, that's the worst.
And so I always absolutely will remap that to a removable back paddle. And because this has true button swap, where it acts as the actual button.
Yeah.
So if you press lightly, it will actually
lightly.
And if you held, it would mimic that button truly. So I always remap stuff, but most of the time it's just L3 and R3 because I hate having to try and click them whilst you're running and being precise, specifically in like shooting games. You'll overshoot or whatever because you're trying to press the button in, and so it's annoying. For me, I think it's kind of a good thing that there's an option for people that really don't like the back paddles.
100%. That's where I'm at. It's great they've done something different. Because I don't like back paddles, but I also hate clicking in the joysticks. I'm just not quite convinced on the execution yet.
Yeah, no, I get you. I prefer a back paddle.
Yeah.
Like that's just where I'm at. But I don't dislike the fact that they're there.
It's an option.
Yeah. And for me, I would naturally rest my finger over all of it.
Yes.
And then I can kind of shift position it in this triangular kind of movement of back is trigger,
that's a
bumper.
Strong movement as well. I really enjoyed that.
Yeah, that's good, isn't it? Yeah. But so for me it's fine. And their default program to L and R. So they're not off. They actually mimic the bumpers, not the triggers. They mimic the bumpers.
That's interesting.
You can map them to nothing.
Yeah.
But if you wipe the program, it will just go back to L and R. But again, they can be anything you want them to be, which is cool, But yeah, I mean, For me, I'd rather have back paddles. However, there's a lot of people that complain about back paddles, so I kind of am glad that there's something different.
Yeah.
Specifically because they're so thin and small.
Yes.
I think if
you'd be gripping quite tight with it.
Gripping tight, and you would be pressing back paddles
definitely.
Accidentally. Whereas with the larger Joy-Cons, I don't find it as much of a problem.
The final bit is really the HD Rumble.
Yes.
Now, side by side with the moped, I promised I wouldn't compare them to the moped pads, but I keep going back there. It's kind of unavoidable, isn't it? At this point?
Yeah. They're so similar.
The Rumble in them both, I couldn't really tell the difference.
Yeah. Now, they are using the same motors as far as I'm aware. So they're ALPS Linear motors. So they're HD Rumble motors, and they are using the same ones as the moped pads as far as I'm aware. Right. And doing the sound test in the video, and listening back specifically like there, I was like, they sound pretty much identical.
Yeah.
However, in use, I would say there is a slight difference. And I think it could be because there's so much travel and stuff on the triggers, or the actual...
The actual material.
The material.
Yeah.
I feel like these are a little bit more rattly in terms of that, like, there's a frequency that you hit with those HD Rumble things in certain games.
Yeah.
And when it hits that frequency, it somehow, it rattles the chassis. Whereas I found on the moped with the same points, it didn't.
Yeah.
So I feel like the moped the construction is slightly different.
Unfortunately, it goes back to what we said right at the start on how it feels in hand. The materials they've used are inherently going to affect how something as visceral and as tangible as Rumble is. It's going to affect that.
Yeah.
So obviously the materials have an impact on that. And I guess that kind of transfers slightly.
Yes.
Again, we're talking about debating the 1%.
Absolutely. This shouldn't really turn you off to these if you're looking at them and you're preferring the size and the fact there's no back paddles and stuff like that. Like, this shouldn't be a deciding factor because it's still got HD Rumble, and I would absolutely choose that over standard Rumble,
every time.
So they're still good.
Not quite as good as the original Joy-Cons though.
No, nothing is good.
There.
And I truly believe it's because the Joy-Cons are so small.
Yes.
They're using a much smaller motor.
Yeah.
And we can see that by the GulaKit KK3 Max controller having some of the largest Rumble motors ever, and these have HD Rumbles, and it's absolutely horrendous. Oh, bye Joy-Con. That's got drift now. Though that controller specifically has massive motors and the HD Rumble is vile. It's disgusting. I'd rather turn it off than use it. Whereas with the actual Joy-Cons, I believe they're using a tiny, tiny, tiny motor. I've opened a pair up. I've seen them, but I've not opened.
You might have just opened a second pair.
Yeah, it might be on the floor right now. But I feel like these possibly might be larger, and if they're not, then it comes down to the space and the plastics being used. These are going to be really compact in there, jammed tight, whereas this might be a lot of emptiness in there.
I think overall, after spending so much time with them, it's easy to recommend them. I'm going to say this final part of should you buy it or should you not? Delete the moped pad from your mind. If you already have the M6 HDs, obviously you don't need anything else. You've got it. You've done it.
You've won.
Yeah, you've completion this. It's fine. Okay.
End game.
Yeah, platinum trophy. It's done. But if you're in the market still for a Joy-Con alternative and you're looking for what is the best thing I can get, then I would recommend these. This is in the conversation for certain.
This is in there, for sure.
If you prefer this ergonomic and this aesthetic, then 100% you should get these.
Yeah, if you've got small hands and you don't like back paddles, then
it's got everything else you need. And it stands up the test of time as well.
Yeah, exactly. Yeah.
It's easy to recommend them. But I cannot escape the fact, and it'd be remiss of us to escape the fact that the moped pads are in the conversation
and they're
always.
$10 more.
They're lurking in the corner.
And they've got more features.
Yeah, so it's a difficult thing. But what is lovely to see is that we are genuinely getting some competition in the space for feature-packed
absolutely
premium Joy-Con
because nothing has come close to the moped pads yet. No. These are the closest.
Definitely.
And, they're not quite there, but they are the closest you can get. Absolutely. And I like that there's choice.
And I think aesthetically, they look the best.
Yeah, really.
On the Switch.
Yeah. Because they're just larger Joy-Cons.
Because they look so much like the Joy-Cons. It just looks like you've got like a pimped out Switch.
Yeah, it's cool, isn't it?
Yeah, it's really cool. So I guess that about wraps it up.
Pretty much, it does. Yeah.
Yes. So if you've enjoyed this video, watch some more.
Oh yes.
The Smash Between Our Faces,
Yes.
and make sure that you like it. Leave a comment what you think about the COIORVIS.
Yes, do it.
What else?
Well, you can become members. Hey! And if you do, then you can see these videos early. And also, what can they do, AJ?
They could join our Discord.
Yay.
It's a great place to be. There's
Yes.
more of this kind of conversation and pictures of dogs.
Yeah, there is. Yeah. Usually me with a picture of my dog. But
Yeah.
There we go.
All great reasons. So until the next time.
Bye.